Dennis Hopper is here tonight. He's one hell of a good actor. A lot of people thought that Dennis would kind of just burn out and fade away. In truth, he's one of the busiest actors in town, and he seems to go from one critically acclaimed role to another. Would you welcome, please, Dennis Hopper? Yeah. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. We haven't really had a chance to talk. I'm a great admirer of yours. You did a thing that was just on a week ago called Double Crossed, where you played Barry Seal, who at one time was a drug runner in and out of countries, and then turned informant for the government, right?
Yeah.
Fascinating role, all based on...
It was a true story, yeah. Yeah, he was an amazing man. It's a much more complicated story than I could obviously tell on television, but I was great. It was fun doing it. I was in more airplanes, yeah.
Did you fly at all?
No, but it was great.
Yeah.
I really had a good time. There were planes that I was in that should never fly. I mean, they had no instrument panels, but we took them up, yeah. It was fun.
And another thing you did a year ago, a thing called, with Barbara Hershey, called Paris Trout,
Paris
right?
Trout, yeah.
Yeah, see?
Yeah. Actually, I got nominated. I'm up for an Emmy. Yeah.
You like those kind of offbeat roles a little bit, right?
I like them. I get them. You know?
Let me read you. let me read you a quote. I want to see if you said this. In Blue Velvet, which was he played a fellow by the name of Frank Booth, who was a murderer, a maimer, drug dealer, beer guzzling psychopath sadist who tortures and humiliates a nightclub singer for his sexual pleasure. The story was that you called up director David Lynch and said, "I am Frank."
And I'd stopped drinking and taking drugs at the time, which is really weird. Yeah, I don't know how to explain that. I loved that part. I loved it. Yeah, I understood the part. I don't know how to.
Right.
I don't know how to get out of that one.
You've had a kind of a. We don't know each other well, but you've had kind of a crazy up and down career in a way.
It's been really insane. I'll tell you something though. I saw you give a speech one night. It's one of the most memorable things I've ever witnessed.
What was that?
Of anybody. It was at Wasserman. I can't remember whether it was Wasserman's 50th year.
Lou Wasserman, 50 years at MCA. Yeah.
That was amazing. I mean, you just blew me apart with that. I mean, I was amazed at you.
Well, I was just out doing some jokes and stuff like that.
Oh, boy, no, it was great. It was a great speech.
Well, we got to get together more often.
No, but seriously, were you there that night? No, it was wonderful.
Well, that's right.
It was really wonderful. I came over to thank you, and you were very shy and sort of couldn't accept, you know, the thanks. And George Burns was sitting at your table.
That's right.
And I went over to George Burns, and I said, I want to tell you how I admire you, and I've never met you, and so on. He said, "Kid, are you, this is about a year or two ago." He said, "Kid," he said, "are you in the business?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Are you going to stay in the business?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I think so." And he said, "Me too."
Only 94 at the time, or 93.
Right. Great. That's great. Yeah.
How'd you get into acting?
Well, I was a farm boy from Kansas, and I wanted to know where the trains were going. And,
You just
something like
got
that.
the hell out of just decided to leave the Midwest?
Yeah, it was, I was in the Dust Bowl the same period, you know, that period of time.
Yes.
You were around there.
Yeah.
And movies, it was a great light in a dark theater, and that was my first real contact with the outside.
Did you ever have any formal training? Anybody in the family at all in the entertainment business?
No. But I later studied with Strasberg in New York, and he was a great teacher. And I was very fortunate. I started acting at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego.
Yeah.
And doing Shakespeare there, and then I came up here and went into contract with Warner Brothers when I was 18, did Rebel Without a Cause and Giant.
Yeah.
With James Dean, and then he died. Then I went to New York and studied for 5 years at Strasberg.
That's what the so-called method acting is.
Yeah, method, I guess. Yeah.
I think a lot of people have a misconception of that. I'm not sure exactly.
Well, method is just a way of working, you know.
Yeah.
And you use it if you get in trouble. Strasberg taught through the senses: the smell, seeing, taste, touch, hearing, and if you can use those, that controls your brain. In other words, if I'm burnt with a cigarette, it goes up here and says you're being burnt here, and so on. So by doing sense memories, we could then do emotional memories by recalling an emotion.
Yeah. George Burns, I remember one night when I think he'd just done Oh God or something, talk about acting. Yeah, and Burns said, he says, "It's quite easy." He said, "If you're out in the hall and you knock on the door and somebody says, 'Come in,' and you don't go in, he says, 'You're a bad actor.'"
There you go.
He said, you respond to what you respond to what the person is saying, and rather than waiting for your next line, right?
Absolutely.
Now you did it. When was Easy Rider?
Easy Rider was yeah, we shot it in '67, edited in '68, came out in '69.
Now that's when you gave Jack Nicholson. That was the first thing that brought Jack Nicholson to prominence, wasn't it? That first role. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does he ever thank you for that?
Well, he takes me to the Laker games, occasionally, which I want to stay with that, that's all. I haven't worked with him since, but Jack's great.
Yeah.
Jack's a terrific guy. He's a great storyteller, and he's a wonderful man. He's having another baby.
That's what I read the other day.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Now, you took this picture, right?
Yeah, it's Sean.
Yeah. Now, Sean Penn.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people would say, how'd you get him to pose for a picture? Because his reputation with people who take photographs is not exactly, a quiet one.
Yeah,
Good picture, though.
This is Interview. It's coming out this month.
Right.
And, yeah. Well, Julian Schnabel is an artist, and he did the article, and he wanted to take Sean's picture, and Sean said, no, I have my own photographer. And then Julian called me and said, you directed him in colors.
Right.
You asked him if I can take his picture, and said, Julian, he really has a problem having his picture taken. He beats people up when they take his picture, so on. He said, yeah, but if you ask him and you take his picture, he can't deny you. So I called Sean up, and I said, Sean, he said, well, you're the one guy that I'll let take my picture, so there it is.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, Sean Penn.
In fact, he's going to be with us.
And I'll tell you, he has directed a movie that is the best first film I've ever seen. And I'll throw Easy Rider into that, too, which was my film. Sean has directed a film called Indian Runner, and it is sensational.
Good.
I have one little scene in it. Charles Bronson has a couple little scenes in it. But Sean has directed this movie, and it's really wonderful.
He's an intense man, isn't he?
It's wonderful. And he did it in Omaha.
Is that right?
Nebraska, and you're from Omaha.
You betcha. He used to work in Omaha. He's intense. I can see where you two would get along well together.
He's a good guy.
Let me take a break. We'll be right back. Stay where you are.